Paul.
Hi.
You ready to start this shit?
Let's do it.
These are your new best friends. These are your new best friends. These are your These are your new best friends. These are your new best friends.
All right. So, this is episode 2, take 2, Groundhog Day Forever of your new best friends. Is you might first round doing this. So hopefully this turns out. And if not, well, maybe we'll just write you a newsletter for episode 2. I don't know. Anyway, I'm Megan Giddings. Laughing with me across the ocean is Paul Asta. Asta? Paul, do I not know how to say your name?
You had it right either way. It doesn't matter.
All right, so today we're going to talk about what's fresh for spring, book-wise, life-wise, name-wise, food-wise, clothes-wise. I don't know. It's already spring here in Bloomington. It'll probably be spring when you're listening to this.
Yeah, it's February freshness. It's just fresh takes on February.
Yeah.
Taking on February with freshness. Nope. Had it the first time.
Ah, so fresh, so clean. Should we start doing audio clips where John's just playing that Outcast for a little bit in the background?
Yes, I would love that.
What happens when it gets sued and shut down by Outcast? Oh my god, we become heroes.
Exactly. If Outcast ever listens to our podcast and wants to shut it down, we must be doing something right. But I honestly never see that day coming.
Me either. I'd be like, oh shit, they know my name. All right, Paul. So, what are you reading right now?
Right now I am reading a couple of collections of poetry. I just got something I've been trying to do while I've been living in Ireland is reading 2 collections of poetry for every novel, collection of short stories, or nonfiction book I read.
Okay.
So right now I'm reading one collection from an Irish poet who's the poetry chair of Ireland right now. Eileen Coolehan. I totally butchered that name, but I shit you not, there are 9 vowels in her last name, and there's double L's and N's. It's very confusing, so I apologize. But her collection is called the Boys of Blue Hill, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
Okay. What is a poetry chair of a country?
There's a lot of titles here in Ireland because they sort of love their literary scene. So there's a poetry chair, there's a poetry professor, there's what is that called? What is the thing we have in the U.S.?
Poet laureate?
Yes. Wow, I'm blanking so hard. It's 10 o'clock here?
It's 11, dude.
There's a poet laureate. So they have all these awesome titles for people to have here, and they travel around Ireland and do workshops and give readings. It's a nice small community, so it's pretty cool.
It's cool. Would you rather be a poetry chair, a poetry baron, or a poetry king?
I think I'd like to be a poetry chair, just so that way I'd be sitting all the time. Maybe I'd be made out of a good oak tree or some sort of ash, something, heavy. Uh,
You're going to be like an heirloom chair.
right, right. That was what you meant by that, right?
It was. You got me.
What are you reading?
I just finished John Darnell's book, Universal Harvester.
Oh.
And at first I was very scared. Then I was like, that's weird. And now I'm just like, that's life.
Can you explain to me how that's different from any Mountain Goat song?
I didn't feel any crushing sadness.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should read that book then. Would you recommend it?
To you, yes. Not like in general, though.
Okay.
Like, part of it is just the characters are not. Like, the most interesting character is like at the edges of the story.
Hmm.
And the characters that he focuses the most on, like, some of them have good chemistry, but some of them are so, like, just boring and not interesting. Like, oh, he's doing something with boring this way. Ugh, that might have been too raw. I don't care. It's been a long
No,
day.
no, I think that's good. And so I read Wolf in White Van,
Same.
the first,
John just playing
and
that
I
outcast
was
for a
not the
little bit
biggest
in the
fan of
background.
that. Like, um, the writing's
Mm-hmm.
good. I enjoyed it. Um, I didn't get the payoff at the end. I was sort of left uh, with a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think I might have enjoyed it more than you because I was really impressed by the reverse linearity of it.
Hmm.
And I was kind of hoping that, especially once it got nominated for a National Book Award, that there would be kind of more play in time in novels. Because I think that a lot of novels still are either like really easily braided narratives where it's like, here's the past, here's the present, here's the past. Or it's just, here's a month, let's go for it. But nah, he was not a trendsetter.
It's tough. Trends are tough.
Do you think, and this is a slight swerve, but still mostly on topic, do you feel like books that are nominated for the National Book Award or any like of those huge prizes, do you think they really affect like bookmaking or book writing culture that much in terms of like influencing people how to write something or what to write about?
I think that's a really good question. I I think I want to say yes, but not in a way that we see that same book or same style come back through and then win the award again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whereas like this is perhaps a bit simplistic, but I mean we see this way more often with movie trends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lord of the Rings comes out, then we get like Golden Compass, we get all these fantasy things like Game of Thrones goes on HBO, bam, like Moneymaker Machine, same thing. We get uh, Hunger Games, and then we get that whole Divergent series and Mortal Instruments,
Ugh.
Shadow Hunters, uh,
You really know your YA
and
spin-offs.
I do because I part of me loves just absorbing narratives and escaping into a fantasy world.
Mm-hmm.
I will be honest about that in terms of my desire to escape whatever. hell I live in.
Hard same.
That is my own construct within my mind.
Oh my God,
So
Paul, I've been living in hell. Can I tell you about my day really quickly?
yes.
So I don't work on Tuesdays for the most part because I've been lucky enough to be working only part time, writing the novel, blah blah blah. And I told you briefly, but for listeners, I had a bunch of stuff done in my house, and and I live in this really old house, and there's an attic. I have the whole like top floor of a very old house as my apartment. It's awesome at times. It's also, you know, kind of a grad student apartment still, despite everything. And they had to get up into the attic and do wiring stuff. So Sunday morning, and that was when we initially recorded our lost RIP buddy version of this episode. I'd been up since before 5 because there were at least one bat in the attic, and we could hear it. The cats were going nuts. John had to seal out the attic with cardboard boxes. It was, ugh. So after days of emailing and calling our landlord, they finally show up to close off the attic because it's usually closed off to us, and also like get this bat. But here's the thing that kills me: they show up unannounced after not answering anything, and it's the two. I don't know. It's the two dudes I trust least to like know what I'm talking about when there's a problem in my apartment. And one of them has a giant net. They're not going to call animal control. They're just going to take care of business. So I lock myself off in the living room for an hour, and they're like, don't come out here. And there's like all this bumping and banging. And they're up in the attic, and I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I'm not a fan of animals in my house. And I'm like, there's got to be a shit ton of bats. And the bats woke up because of global warming, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm saying blah, blah, blah a lot. Paul, are you there?
I am here.
You're so quiet while you're listening. I'm so impressed.
I'm like captured by your story. I'm also sitting on my hands so that way I don't pick up any background noise.
So, what happens is they knock on the living room door, and I'm like, all right, come in. And I don't know what's going on. And they're like, there's a hole, but we don't see a bat anymore. And I was like, what? And I can't tell if it was like this linguistic thing where the bat flew out because they were chasing it, or the bat was gone and they had been like up in the attic, forgot a flashlight because neither of them had a flashlight on them, and there's no lights up there. And they were like using their cell phones and like scared each other shitless. Anyway, sometime they're gonna fix the attic so no bats can get in there at all.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
So, question.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Batman after your real life experience with bats?
Well, I'd like to know how he ever like equated bats with justice, because they eat moths, they yell at you, they get scared, they fly around. I don't see any justice in things bats do. Um, Also, Ben Affleck is not my Batman.
Thank you. That's important.
Yeah.
He's not my Batman either.
No. And I mean, I like Christian Bale's Batman because he's a douche. I love when he throws everybody out of the party. And I've joked for years that if I ever won a National Book Award, I would actually act like I was about to do like this really thought-provoking and interesting speech, and then just do Batman's "All You Phonies" speech and throw everybody out of the National Book Awards.
Oh no!
And
Hopefully he
Ra's al Ghul. It would be awesome.
Oh my god! I don't know what to say to that. I mean, it's Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, so to get way back on topic, I was going to have the opposite reaction to you, where I don't know if the National Book Awards really influence books in as much as like movies or
Right.
music do. And I was going to say that it seems money more than any of those is like the influencer still, at least for the major presses. It's did something similar to this sell bonkers money,
Well,
bonkers
here's
copies.
if we're to dissect this a little bit further, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think it happens as much with literary fiction as much as it definitely happens with YA fiction and children's lit.
And also romance. Paul and I, to get ready for this episode, we looked at um, the most anticipated books from like Publishers Weekly, Electric Lids lists of women, well, diverse women, more importantly, and many other lists. But Paul, did you notice on that Publishers Weekly? I don't know what Publisher Weekly is. Publishers Weekly list that one of the most anticipated romances is like teaching what BDSM really is, not 50 Shades of Grey.
Not 50 Shades of Grey. Oh man. Yeah. I I'm more interested in the titles uh that they come up with the romance slash erotica. I feel like it's Thunder's Passion, and then it's like Terry takes a weekend for herself to go to a ranch in Dallas, and then there's like this rodeo cowboy with this shirt like tied around his waist, and he's like dumping a whole 50-gallon bucket of water down the front of himself, and she's like really into it, you know.
You just wrote an award-winning romance novel. It's hot as hell.
Okay, true story. When I worked at Target
Uh huh.
and all the romance novels would get remaindered, all we had to do was tear off the covers to send back to the publisher, and then we'd throw the entire book in the compactor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I was working in the stock room and was supposed to throw all these away, I just like take two of them, and then when there was downtime, I'd be reading them while I was pulling stock for the rest of the store. And that's probably why, Thunder's Passion is stuck in my head to some degree.
There's a trend that you'll also love, and it's called like the billionaire's blank. And there's like a whole line of at least Harlequin, and it's like the billionaire's best friend, the billionaire's vacation. And it's all about like a billionaire wanting to fuck a normal woman. And he showers her in gifts. Like the sex in those books, I've read a few now. There's like barely any sex. It could be really G rated, but the sex is all the things that he like does for her or takes her on. Like I've never read a romance book where it's like, let me tell you about this 5-course Michelin star dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And I still kind of
I need
remember it.
to, yeah, I need to get a pen name and start writing some of these novels, but instead of a 5-star Michelin, it's going through the drive-through at rallies and you know
Yeah.
dropping shitty chili down the front of my button-down H&M shirt that cost $8.
So the Scrubs romantic weekend.
Exactly.
Sorry, that was a
I,
sick burn.
I mean, you're good at those, and they're spot on, so it's fine.
I would read though the Scrubs romantic weekend because it would be comedy genius.
Hmm. So it's just as a little segue that's still part of us looking at these book lists here. Um, what what are your what would you say is your your reading comfort zone?
it's really hard for me to know where it is. Some of it is that my reading patterns change a lot. Where there was this one point, oh my god, this makes me feel old to say, it was like 7 years ago, where I was going through like a super completist phase. I read almost all of Haruki Murakami's books out at the same time. Like, over a
Wow.
span of a very long time, I was just reading his books. I did the same thing to Alice Munro, Margaret Atwood. And it was just like these big artists. I started on Don DeLillo and then got like finally shaken off of the whole experiment. But I think my brain just gets in this groove where like for a month at a time I'll be like, I need to read only short story collections that have come out in the past 2 years.
Hmm.
I need to make sure I'm only reading books by certain people. So I think if I have to narrow down a comfort zone though, I think it's always me trying to find the opposite of what I'm writing. So if I'm
Interesting.
writing like a super weird, like, I don't know, aliens fighting Batman short story and there's like experimental like flourishes in it, I'm probably reading like a very straight laced Alice Munro short story and going over it. Although she's a little weird at times, but not weird like that. What's your comfort zone?
I mean, we're friends on Goodreads or whatever, and
I'm
it's
terrible
easy
at
for me to
Goodreads.
to pick up collections of poetry and just plow through them, and
Mm-hmm.
I make various notes or what have you. Um, but like I definitely have no problem reading collections of poetry. That's like um, I don't know, my bread and butter, sort of. Uh, in terms of like writing and reading, I do tend to read more novels, just to have something, I suppose, to come back to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it takes me a bit longer to plow through a novel, so it's nice to have um, that to have on my nightstand, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whereas like the poetry collections, I can plow through those in an hour or two. So, um, but I would say too, like maybe this doesn't have to do with the reading itself necessarily, but like if I'm reading, let's say for like research or
Mm-hmm.
um, you know trying to pull apart a collection of poetry, like what's operating here, why has this person put it into sections, etc. you know Looking at the structure of their collection, I have to be like in an uncomfortable chair with like no distractions. I would say that's like my business reading, you know. Um, Whereas if I'm doing like pleasure reading, where I don't care what I'm reading, or I'm not trying to pay attention too hard to the craft of it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like usually laying in bed, but in a position that makes it so my neck is like on the verge of breaking, so it's like really uncomfortable, but yet it's comfortable.
What is
Or
wrong
like
with you?
I don't know, like I'm crawled into the corner of my bed, or I'm like sleeping on one of my arms, like laying on it to a point where it goes numb. So I don't know what that means.
Ugh.
Yeah, I guess what this all comes down to is that I have to feel like I'm suffering in some regard in order to feel like, um, I guess, in order to read is whether that's physically or mentally in some respect. But I guess all those things point to some sort of physical uh, discomfort.
Should we have an episode where we just talk about our weird foibles to a therapist and then let the therapist just like tell us what they think?
No, I'm not ready to do that. But maybe we could have like a psychic, like tarot reading
I pref-
during our
yeah, I'd prefer the psychic. We should. Oh, maybe we can get that witch that Kathy Bowman brought in, Dawn with a U.
dawn. Yeah,
Dawn might be into it.
I'd be into that. I'm, we'll have to consider that for sure.
Yeah.
So, what are the books you're looking forward to this spring?
Um. Let's see. I am looking forward to. I think my big spring book is going to be the Lydia Yuknovich, The Book of Joan.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
one where it's like the future and Jonah Ark's there, and then like I think mutants in space.
So
It
it's
was very
not.
dreamy,
Yeah, yeah. That sounds like a book totally up your alley.
and I think it's coming out this spring, but it's by Candace Williams. It's coming out on the Atlas Reviews chapbook series. I mean, some of it is that like Natalie and Atlas have been really great to me through my chapbook stuff.
Hmm.
But I want to read to you the blurb about this chapbook because I think it sounds
Okay.
really good. Okay. It's Spells for Black Wizards and it's by Candace Williams. Candace Williams is head of community at a podcasting startup by day. So if Candace is listening to this, she's really judging the hell out of us. But by night in subway rides, she's a poet. Her work has appeared or is forthcoming in blah, 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 really great places. But I just want to read a book called Spells for Black Wizards.
I do too. I think that sounds good.
I thought I had more of a blurb here, but it doesn't matter. The title sold me. You know what I realized looking at all of those
What's that?
lists? Very few of the titles of the books coming out were an automatic, like, oh shit, I have to read this. Why are big book collection titles usually not that good? Like, small press titles are often much better than, like, a Penguin Random House title.
Hmm. That's a good question. I maybe there's less risk involved for a small publisher
Mm-hmm.
because they're only making runs of maybe 200 to 400 copies of a book at any given time,
Mm-hmm.
whereas also you're strapped for space on like a cover for a Penguin Random House. They opt for a bigger typeset in order to make sure that you can see it on the bookshelf.
Yeah.
So shorter titles do well,
I mean,
or
I think the
do
best
better.
title of a book that's come out in the spring winter region is There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
even
would
if
you
I
would you
didn't.
consider? Sorry.
No, you go first.
Uh,
I talk over
I
you
mean,
all the
I
time.
I love Tin House,
Yeah.
but are you putting them in the same territory as Penguin Random House, FSG?
I mean,
You know.
not really, but it's hard to say that they're a small press like Atlas is a small press.
Hmm.
It's, I mean, we might as well just say they're a middle press. Doesn't have the ring as small press though. Eh. I mean, I guess
Anyways,
Lincoln and the Bardo is a good title.
uh-huh.
Oh, you know what's a really good title to me?
What's
Sour
that?
Heart.
I that was one of the books I was going to talk about here.
So what is it just the title or what appealed to you about Sour Heart?
I mean, I've been a big fan of Jenny Zhang since a friend of mine gave me her collection of poems.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just getting to read some of like the essays she's put up online. Um, I'm interested to see her work in a different medium now. I
Yeah.
mean, She actually sent me a chapbook off of Twitter. I had tweeted at this reading she was doing at Washington at a literary festival, and she signed it and everything. So that was super cool.
Oh, that is
But
really cool.
Twitter's actually been really good about that, like making connections and people responding to my work and getting to know sort of other people in the literary community. I
I
wish I
mean,
could stop saying or
uh,
uh uh
ah,
uh
ah.
I just feel like I sound like a complete idiot, but that's just how it goes. So I'm gonna roll with it.
Hmm.
But I think Sour Heart, that juxtaposition, right? To modify heart with sour. There's a great picture for the cover with the grapes.
Yeah.
I'm into it. It sounds good to me.
Another interesting title is Lincoln in the Bardo. But I
Hmm.
don't know if that makes me want to pick it up. Where I'm just like, huh? Not like, oh.
Are
But
you a George Saunders fan though?
I am a George Saunders fan. I'm not a diehard George Saunders fan, like some people we know. But I like George
Right.
Saunders. I think some of his stories are really brilliant. I I like teaching George Saunders when I teach undergrads because he's a writer that they genuinely have a reaction to.
Because I'm not really a fiction person. Um, it's interesting for me to see the sort of short story writers that people really latch on to. Like a lot of people are like, I love Raymond Carver. I'm only gonna write like Raymond Carver. And then, similarly, I mean, I've never read 10th of December, and that's sort of on my long list of things to read.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but, you know, there's a lot of people I hear, I love Cheever. Like, I'm a big
You
John
know some
Cheever fan.
boring ass people if they're yelling, I love Cheever and I love Carver.
I mean, we live in the Midwest. Come on.
Oh,
Like,
that's true.
that's just how it goes. Anyways, moving on.
I
Um,
love reading
you,
stories about white alcoholics who are so sad.
I think that's too real. Yeah, that's
Reminds
God
me of
help us.
everybody I know who didn't get out of my hometown. Welcome to the Midwest. That was too real.
I'm not even gonna touch that. Let's
Yeah,
just.
I might have that edited out. I don't know. I'm gonna leave in the first half.
Okay, so you had another book on your collection you were gonna talk about.
Um, you know, was I'm really interested in the Edward Stanicat, The Art of Death, writing the final story. And
Hmm.
I think that actually got moved to July, though. So, hot for summer, not for spring. And then a few people have emailed me about reading Human Acts by Han Kang. Han Kang or Han Kang? I think Han Kang. And did
Yeah,
you read The Vegetarian?
I didn't.
I have no idea what you would think about The Vegetarian. I like The Vegetarian better than I liked Universal Harvester,
Uh-huh.
but it's another book where I'm kind of like hesitant to recommend it to anybody
Hmm.
because it's like a very brutal, kind of deeply unsettling book. I think that she's a terrific writer, but I don't know, it's the type of book that where like I think someone has to ask me, not the other way around.
Okay. It's not something you're gonna shout from the mountaintop.
I mean, I would, but if someone's like, "Hey, what should I read?" I want to be like, "Yo, dude, you should read The Vegetarian. You'll have so
Hmm.
much fun." Yeah, maybe that's my safe spot. It's not about me, but whenever I think about books I recommend to people, I never
Uh-huh.
recommend like really formally difficult books or like with very hard subject matter for the most part. I'm usually like Why don't you have some fun? Let me tell you about this.
Do you think that's because a lot of people who we end up recommending books to are not perhaps reading on the same sort of level that we read on?
I think
That sounds like that puts
no.
us. I just made that sound like we're reading assholes, but
No, I think a
like,
lot of people who ask me are readers but not writers. And
mhm.
there's this there's this thing that people from or that live in Detroit now do where they say nice things about Detroit. And I feel often like I have to say nice things about reading. Like I'm always
uh,
like, reading's great, everybody. Nothing bad ever happens in reading. Here, have some fun. Not here's some misery for you to spend 3 months on.
I think that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, yeah,
So you had mentioned, and we sort of dropped it out of nowhere. I think George Saunders sort of got in our way a bit, but Morgan Parker's collection, there are more beautiful things than Beyonce. Oh, because we had talked about Tin House and big publishers first, Tin House, but
yeah.
um, I haven't picked up that collection yet, and that's like at the top of my list of things to buy here.
Yeah. So I just finished reading it, and it's one of those books. It's speaking about people who are readers but not writers. I'd been talking about it to my younger sister, and she seemed so interested. I ended up just buying her a copy and sending it to her. And she
Hmm.
seems to be, I think, enjoying it. But it's it's a really good collection where I think it captures, in terms of talking just about trends and what's hot for spring. One of the things I've noticed, just even in our conversation, is that the writers we're talking about, it's mostly dominated by female writers, and often female writers who would be termed inclusive voices, not your standard, well, other than George Saunders, like white dude. And I think she captures what's at least what writers want to see who fall into these groups, where she is writing about race and how to be a woman and things that would probably fall under like heading racism, heading feminism, heading, you know,
Hmm.
big topics. But she does such a great job of balancing, just, she makes it feel like this is your friend who is really into Beyonce. She is also pretty depressed at times, but she's also really fun, and she's her poems are so alive on the page. It's really exciting.
I'm really excited to pick up that collection. I've been a fan of hers for a while now. Um, did you want to maybe read us a poem from that collection?
Yeah, I'll read her a poem. Not, I'll read her a poem. That would be, oh my God. Imagine walking up to Morgan Park and being like, I'm going to read you a poem. That
So when we're at AWP at some time in the future, if I ever decide to go, I'm gonna
enter the
give you a
void.
book, and I want to watch you just walk up to her. Don't even give her a chance to say no or anything. Just read her a poem and then walk away.
I feel like that
Like,
would be the rudest thing I would ever do, and embarrassing.
we'll put you in some sort of disguise.
Also, she's going to be in Bloomington in June, so
Oh,
she'll probably recognize me. It'll be even more weird if she's like, hey, Megan. And I'm like, poem,
silent.
poem, 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 poem. Peace, poem.
You were, didn't she take one of your pieces for day one too?
She did, and she's an awesome editor. And if you're someone who's eligible for day one and is willing to work with Amazon. She did a fantastic job editing my story there. And now I sometimes get like 4-cent royalty statements. It's pretty cool.
Oh,
Anyway,
that's awesome.
let me read you Heaven Be a Xanax. So,
Okay.
and also I'm doing a really poet thing where I'm reading it off my cell phone, and I'm a little embarrassed of myself right now. So, Heaven Be a Xanax. When people say, "How are you?" I say, "Good." It is a rule no one can answer, crying in the gap by my therapist's office. Or, I am still angry with my parents for traumatizing me through organized sports. Dangerous and satisfying body of water. I can almost remember heaven. Or still, a woman slaughtered for wonder. Or, unfortunately, misplaced grip. I am not doing a good job waiting. When I get to heaven, I'm going to wear my good bra so no one can stay mad at me. I won't have any feelings to hurt, just cheeseburgers on deep colored slumber. Just men offering their golden bodies, and I will take the offerings on my tongue, and it will not be a vault, and someone will not invade me, and I will kneel to pray, and I will address the prayer to myself, and I will be allowed.
I love that.
Same.
I know I've said this like 3 times already, but I am very much looking forward to picking up that collection.
Yeah, it will be your new best friend.
I could probably use a new best friend, uh, or
Wonderful.
or a couple. You know,
Yeah. Ireland seems cold and sad.
it's actually been pretty warm. The sad factor is still there, um, but
How
that's
often do you
just
gaze into the ocean and you're just like, misery?
the real ocean or the ocean of depression.
The ocean of depression in your heart or in your eyes?
I mean, I can't really tell the difference because I'm drowning either way. But
We need to change this conversation. Someone's going to send us like a therapist brochure. They're going to be
yeah,
sending you letters like, "Are you okay?" They're going to be sending you casseroles. They're going to be.
sending a casserole would be like the biggest Midwestern thing you could fucking do.
I
Like, oh my
fucking love
god,
casseroles. I don't know why you got so mad that you said that.
I didn't
Don't
mean
you
it in a
ever
bad
say
way.
anything that means that we don't like casseroles. Shit, dude.
Look, we're Midwestern. It's fine. Like, I'm gonna send you a sorry casserole
I'm gonna send
for
you a
upsetting you.
casserole full of Lexapro.
I'm not sure if I should try Lexapro, but I'll talk to my doctor about it. God,
It
we're
really helped
cutting this
Kanye
part out.
West out. But then he went off of it and made his album and rapped about it.
Mm. So, so now that we're gonna cut that part out, and we're back to talking about Heaven Be a Xanax,
Yeah.
right? Um, something else that was huge in the news, right? Beyonce is having twins.
Yes. She is. And I wish
I mean,
that we
that's
had a graphic. I don't know, not a graphic, like a sound. Like maybe it's just the start of Beyonce, like singing a song, birthing the song. Paul, Beyonce is giving us twins. What does she name them?
I have a couple of ideas here, a couple of new ideas about what her kids' names could be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they're both girls, I thought it would be nice if she named them Michelle and Kelly.
You are a fool for thinking that Beyonce would ever name her children after them.
But then she would always have power over them.
No, that's letting them have the spotlight again.
Fair enough.
What do you
Okay, let's
understand about Beyonce?
nothing because she's that much better than I am.
Ah, Beyonce.
If they're both men,
Mm-hmm.
boys, um, this is just a joke.
Mm-hmm.
But Keenan and Kel,
You might as well have said their middle names would be Good and Burger.
I mean, I would love that. I would love that very much.
Here are my picks. One, two girls, Indigo and Violet.
Oh.
Like Roy G. Biv, but you got blue already.
Mm-hmm.
Indigo, Violet.
Mm-hmm. I
I,
like that.
I guess if they're twin boys, it could be Roy G. And then blue has Olive because she's Blue Ivy already. Oh my god. Did I do it? Did I uncrack the code?
I think you did.
Oh my god. Biv. Blue Ivy.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. I think that's the winner.
Oh my god. I understand how Nicolas Cage feels in the National Treasure movies now. I cracked the code.
There's a map on the back of the Declaration of Independence.
If you follow her kids, there's a rainbow, and then there is a pot of gold filled by filled by Beyonce and Jay-Z.
Did you smoke before this episode?
No, I'm just really tired. But it would have been hilarious if I was super stoned.
Yeah.
This is my time of day where like my imagination is going, dude. I wrote for like 4 hours.
That's really good. I'm jealous.
I I'm like on a roll right now.
Yeah, you're killing it.
I'm trying. Oh man. I am on my grind.
You gotta earn your pink sandals.
Yeah, if I don't, then what is the point? What's the point of
I
all of
don't know.
this?
So aside from Morgan's book, which you just finished, are
Mm-hmm.
there any other books that are on your list?
For spring or in general?
I suppose in general, we
I
can move a
mean,
little bit past beyond spring.
I mean, a new book that I'm really looking forward to is Carmen Maria Machado's Her Body and Other Parties. That's a good title. But I really like
Hmm.
her short stories a lot. Um, I have no idea when or if it's got to be when. There's no way that she would never have a book come out. But Alice Sola Kim has to be writing a book. She has so many short stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to?
Um. There's a wow. Stop saying.
I didn't even hear
Um.
that.
I did because I
Uh,
said it. There's a novel. I think. Yeah, it's a novel. Harmless Like You
mm-hmm.
by Rowan Hiseo Buchanan, I think.
That's a really good title, and I've never heard of this novel though.
So I'll just read you the little snippet here. Uh, Written in startlingly beautiful prose, Harmless Like You is set across New York, Berlin, and Connecticut, following the stories of Yuki Oyama, a Japanese girl fighting to make it as an artist, and Yuki's son, Jay, who as an adult in the present day is forced to confront his mother who abandoned him when he was only 2 years old. Harmless Like You is an unforgettable novel about the complexities of identity, art, adolescent friendships, and familial bonds, offering a unique exploration of love, loneliness, and reconciliation.
Hmm.
So that just sounds like everything tailor made to everything I enjoy. So I'll be excited to pick up that. And I think Lori Moore blurbed it. So,
Hmm.
so on our notes here, I noticed you put something or proposed a question: should we challenge each other to read a book the other might not usually read? And
Yes.
so I was wondering if you had any suggestions for me of something I could branch out and try.
Well, how are you feeling? Like, what do you want in your book life?
I'm pretty open to anything. Like right now, I've got a couple of collections of poetry I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm slogging through this collection of Irish mythology, which I thought was awesome in the beginning, but now I'm finding myself having to be on Google uh,
Mm-hmm.
searching names and all these places to just figure out what the fuck's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been more annoying than enjoyable right now. But um, that's just part of how that goes. And then I've also been reading a psychology book on Carl Jung. So that's been
I,
sort of where I'm at right now.
I guess because the problem with finding a challenge for you is you are a good reader. So why don't I'm just gonna say a book that have you read White Noise yet by Don DeLillo?
I haven't, and that's buried on my list.
I just want to talk to you about it. I don't think it'll be a challenge for you. I just want to
Okay.
know what you think about it.
Okay. I'll
All
have to
right.
check that out.
What are you gonna challenge me to?
Well, I don't know if you've read any of her work before, or how do you feel about memoirs?
I could take or leave them.
Yeah. I just finished reading a really interesting one for class by Hilary Mantel, but it was one of the more enjoyable ones, and I knew nothing about her before I read it. So um, I don't know if that bodes well, or
I could do that.
but also if you're looking for something else, there's plenty of poetry collections as
No, let's
well.
go memoir. I'm more likely to pick up a poetry collection because I've seen you that you're reading it on Goodreads
Uh-huh.
than pick up a memoir. I don't know what my deal
Ooh,
is.
do you know what else that I
What?
really want to get your opinion on?
What?
That's kind of memoir-ish, but
Uh
not
huh.
necessarily. So Sad Today by Melissa Broder.
Guess what, friend? I read that last month.
I didn't see you finish it. Okay.
Um, I I think she is interesting.
Don't hold back. Just let it out.
Um, I think the book is. I think the book has this idea of you know how sometimes when someone lays everything out in such a way and they think that you're going to find it deeply interesting, and
Uh-huh.
then they go even further and they're like, look, here are all the documents. Like, one of the things that was a really interesting experience for me while reading So Sad Today is like, if I just see someone I know texting, like, it's hard to sometimes not look if they're like really interested in texting a ton just because I want to know because they're saying like a ton of stuff. I was not remotely interested in any of her texts, and a ton of the book is text.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I don't care, man. You've already told me everything I need to know. There's no thrill of voyeurism in this.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, I was shockingly like untitillated by like all of her sex stuff or like
Yeah.
weird reveals.
Do you think you would have been more interested if it was less of it? So, or I guess a better way to phrase it would be um, if it wasn't all compacted into that collection.
I mean, the collection was a little repetitive,
Uh-huh.
but I also wonder if it's another, like, we've talked a little bit both here in the podcast and just in our conversations about timeliness. And I mean, reading that last month when, like, Donald Trump was getting inaugurated, and then, like, reading about someone who kind of was, like, Owen hard over her own sadness
Mm-hmm.
in a way that, like, it's not to discount her feelings. And I think, like, I follow her Twitter account. She's can be really funny in very short bursts. But,
Mm-hmm.
like, I just remember reading it, like, on Barack Obama's last day of being president and being like, shut the fuck up right now. And I knew it was part of time, but, like, I hadn't really gotten that heartbroken. I can't remember if I talked about this in the first podcast. I don't know. But I hadn't, I wasn't one of those people who, like, after the election was like, I'm losing my mind. Like, I saw it coming. Like, on election night, John and I turned to each other at like 8, and we had, maybe even earlier than that, we were just like, this, nothing feels right. Like, I don't know, there was just like a feeling in the air that was not good.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I mean, people were very racist to me at times right after the election. And it kind of just was like, well, here we go again.
Yeah.
But that last day when I woke up that morning and I hadn't realized like how much I cared that like Barack Obama was in office still, and how much like that feeling of like at least I know what everything is going to be like. Like, I don't know. I came into it knowing Donald Trump was unreliable. So it was like this last day, and suddenly I just felt miserable for a day. And then I tried to read that to distract myself, and it was just like, you know what, fucker? Probably half the people that you're blinking in this voted for Trump and are lying that they didn't. Or worse, they didn't vote. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like, you can be funny, but I don't know.
Bad timing.
It was just, it was hilariously bad timing. I mean, it's why I've, like, I don't know. It's a weird feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. I am probably going to read her book again when I'm maybe a year from now
Uh-huh.
and see what I think, because I want to give it a fair chance. Like, there are people I really like who are like, it was very entertaining.
Yeah. I think for me, I had read it much earlier than the election. Um, and I also got the audio book of it. And so I got to space it out a little bit and sort of,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't binge read it, I suppose. And, a couple of those essays had been floating around online. I want to say at like Vice and a couple other places.
Oh, she is made
Uh,
for Vice.
right, right. So, I'd come across some of those pieces earlier before, and that's why I decided to finally bite the bullet and get that audiobook. Um, so I wasn't reading it, reading it.
So, if any of you have books that you want us to read, feel free to tweet. You can tweet at me at MEGIDD Ings. Me plus Giddings. Or you can tweet your suggestions at Paul. What is your Twitter handle?
It's at Impossible, just like impossible, but Paul instead of Bull. So
Yeah. So this was the second episode, or third, who knows? It's Groundhog
nope,
Day.
this was the second episode.
No, this could be the third. I don't know. This is Groundhog Day. We might wake up. We're doing the podcast again tomorrow, and then again, and again, and again, and again. Meanwhile,
So
Bill
maybe we
Murray's
should just
there.
say thanks for listening to your new best friends, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, and while you're waiting to hear the next episode of Your New Best Friends, just a reminder that Fear No Lit is open for the Submerging Writers Fellowship. Are you drowning in unsuccess? Do you feel washed over by wave and wave of rejection? Are you not in an MFA? Do you not have a book? Do you want to go to AWP 2018? Do you want to see Paul screaming because he's at AWP 2018 and he hates it? He hates it. But you're happy because you're there because you didn't have to pay for it. If so, you should apply. You can go to www.fearnolit.com to find out more details. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye, friends.
Bye-bye.
Yo,